All right, so today we're talking about factoring. Before we need to do factoring, we need to review finding the GCF. So let's do that real quick. GCF is kind of like least common denominator. There is a way to actually work it out. Most of you have good enough number sense you don't have to actually use this method, but I'm just going to remind you how to use the method so that way you have that tool if you need to use it. So I want you to find the GCF of 4x and 12x. So the way that you would do this is you would just start making kind of like your factors. So 1 times 4 is 4, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So that's all the factors of 4. But then we also have an x being multiplied, so we always have to throw that in there too, now that we're in algebra. So for the 12, we have 1 and 12. I'm going to go ahead and put my x before I forget. 2 and 6, and then 3 and 4. I always run myself out of room there. So then you look for the biggest one because it's the greatest. So 4 is the biggest one, and x is also in common. So my greatest common factor between those two is 4x. Let's do one more. 18a and 20ab. So 18a, I got 1 and 18. I'm going to go and put an A. 2 and 9, and then 3 and 6. And then 20, A, B. I got 1, 20, A, and B. 2 and 10, 3, no, 4, and 5. Get a lot more space there. So my biggest number is actually 2. And then the only variable that is in common is A. So my greatest common factor here is 2A. Okay, so now to factoring. Factoring is undoing the distributive property. So what we learned yesterday was multiplying it in. We're now dividing it out and turning it back in pretty much to what we did yesterday. So we have some steps. Let's do 3x plus 9. I'm going to write the steps off to the side and do it kind of step by step. Most of you guys will never have to think about these steps again, and you'll just be able to pull the number out and move on. The first step is to find the GCF of both numbers. Okay, so I got 3x and 9. So 3x is just going to be 1, 3, and x. 9 would be 1, 3, and 9. So my greatest common factor here is just 3. Okay, check. Step 2. Now divide the GCF from both parts of the expression. A little squiggly here for step 2. So my expression is my problem, so 3x plus 9. I'm dividing my GCF from both pieces of this. So I'm going to divide that by 3, and I'm going to divide that by 3. And that turns into 1, so I'm left with just x plus 9 divided by 3 is 3. All right, my last step, put the GCF on the outside of parentheses and everything else on the inside. So your two answers that you've come up with right here, your GCF goes on the outside This goes on the inside of your parentheses. And that is your official final answer. So whenever I tell you to factor this, that's the factored version of that. Okay? It's undoing the distributive property because I literally, if I go back in, take 3 times x, I get 3x. 3 times 3, I get plus 9. I get my problem again. So I'm literally undoing what we did yesterday to turn it back in to that. Okay, let's do a couple more. You can always do that to check too, to make sure your answer is correct. Yeah, I did label that as A. So that's B. So we got 4x minus 28. I'm not going to write out all those steps. I'm just going to do it kind of step by step. Find your GCF. For those of you that already know what it is, awesome. For those of you that need to work it out, this is how we work it out. 1, 2, 4, and x. 28 has a lot more. 1, 2, 4, 6, 14, and 28. So my biggest one is 4. So I'm going to take my GCF and I'm going to divide it by both pieces here. What's the biggest number I can take out of both of these evenly? 4. That turns to x. And then I just drop my minus sign down. That would be a negative 7. So now my GCF goes on the outside of parentheses. This part goes on the inside. And I have my answer. I factored it. Check my answer, make sure it's right. That would give me 4x minus 28. So I got the right answer. Okay, occasionally you will get ones like this. Is there a GCF between 12 and 7? 12 has a whole bunch of numbers I can go in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12, and then I guess x. 7 just has 1, 7, and y. So besides 1, which that wouldn't change anything if I divide both things by 1, there is no GCF. So we would say can't be factored. Because if there's no GCF, I can't simplify that. That's just as good as it gets. All right, that is factoring.